We're back. Here we go.
All right, now, getting back, we want to talk a little bit about the Middle East, and if we take a look, we're going to divide it into sort of three ways, where you take sort of like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. And these countries are going to be interesting countries because right now, as we can see, I mean, it's like I said, it's got to do not so much with, overthrowing the government and freeing the people. It's got to do with this energy agreements and who can move the energy and use Syria, because Syria is right in the middle of, like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. It's sort of like, whoa, this is the sweet spot. So they need to get him out of there in order to get some of this to sort of like take out the Russians and the Chinese.
Agreeable person in there to say,
exactly.
Of course, put a pipeline through, of course, take our resources, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it. And this is sort of a little bit like the end game. So, I mean, these people here have been funding, but at the same time, there is a shift. Egypt is sort of like going through, like the public, the people are there. That there is actually, I would say, a real civil war.
Yeah, they've had enough of all these.
Yeah, that's a 50-50, and I think that in some ways that might be good for Israel, because they're fighting, so it distracts them. So maybe Israel can sort of go over and sort of NATO and sort of bomb in Syria, but at the same time, there's some other happenings going on, because Saudi Arabia is a little bit upset that America's not supporting Morsi and the boys that are in there with Muslim Brotherhood that are actually in Syria right now trying to overthrow them. So that is sort of so Russia and China like that. So now it seems like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, they're trying to help each other, because if something happens in Egypt, that could spill over. And what you read about Saudi Arabia being so nice and smooth, that is ready to boil and go through the roof too.
They've been simmering for a year or so, haven't they, with all what's been going on there with the king and everything.
There's a lot going on there, and that's one issue. Turkey, another thing. That is a civil war too, because I mean, most of the people do not want to fight Syria, but the government, like the lackeys they are.
Yeah, I mean, Turkey. I mean, it's completely out of the news. It's not in any channels, papers, but I mean, we all know. We saw it on the net for a while. It's kind of even quiet on the net now. Turkey's simmering. They're kind of like, they're just functioning. The people are angry, they're annoyed, nothing of what they want is being represented by their government.
Exactly. So I would say that, I honestly believe the actual civil wars are in these three countries. I think Turkey can have a civil war. I think Saudi Arabia, and also I think Egypt is that way. Now, if I'm a country like the United States, I mean, no one's know how that will play out in the end. There's going to be no control in that because of the people. So now they're going to have internal struggle. How this is going to turn out? Well, they don't want war. So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And Russia and China, I mean, they're liking this too. I mean, they're really liking this too.
Well, it's like we were talking earlier, they're spreading themselves all over the place.
Yeah,
now they're going to be putting their ships out there. They're going to be firing off their cruise missiles. They're going to be racking up that debt.
Running out of money at the same time fighting more wars.
Pretty much, burning money.
And burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, so, man, I mean, we are on the eve of big moves now, big moves.
Well, let's talk a little bit about sort of like Israel and Jordan and Qatar. Now, they're in a little bit of the same boat as, like, say, maybe Qatar and Jordan are a little bit like Saudi Arabia and Turkey because of the energy. This is an energy thing, and Qatar has been just funding over $3 billion supporting the thugs, the so-called Syria Free Army. I mean, that's the biggest joke on the planet. I mean, that's the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, I've got at least Jordan, I was reading today, have categorically said no U.S. placement of troops equipment in their country to launch into Syria. They said, you cannot launch anything from our country.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how that turns out.
I mean, since when does the U.S. listen to me?
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, that's an interesting question, because I think, you know, if we're talking about, say, even Israel, I mean, we can talk another hour about that, and I think most people that are awake about Israel and take a look at their history, you know, a fake state. I know people don't like to hear that, but if you really look at the true history and look what they've done, I mean, these people have, like, war crimes against humanity. I mean, you just look at, oh, Jesus Christ. Their day of reckoning is right here, and I honestly believe that the leaders of Israel, I mean, they're playing a dangerous game that's going to affect their whole people, because they are going to be on the bullseye list here.
Yeah, you know, an instigator of problems in the region. I mean, it's a boiling pot all the way around.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, if you take like Syria, Iran, and you take obviously China and Russia, and there's probably a lot of other countries that are not saying much that are supporting this. I mean, these people are already in Syria, like you said earlier. Yeah, I mean, they've been doing this for 20 years.
I mean, this is always been on the cards, and you know, there's so many of these proxy wars that go on all over the place. And this one really just kind of, it's been a proxy war developing and growing into
this area.
A real confrontation between the, you know.
There's no room here.
The U.S.
There's no room here now. There's no room to let it go, because there's no way that Russia will let Syria go without, you know, they're not going to lie down and stick out their neck and slap their nuts and say, here, take it.
Yeah, I mean, they tried it, the US tried it as a proxy war, and, you know, they tried distracting his country and toppling him. Didn't work. People are wise to it, you know. Yeah. As we said earlier, they would have all joined the rebels if that was the case. So you know, this has developed from them having a small number of special forces in the area and training the rebels, or Al Qaeda, and so you were saying before, the numbers, more and more of these so-called rebels, you know, what are you saying?
100,000, and they've destroyed most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry.
I mean, it's obvious that Assad's army, you know, they're wise to the fact.
Absolutely.
They know who they're fighting, and they're still focused. They're still with him for good reason. They can see that, you know, he's saying these are outside forces. These are not my people. You know, they're fighting them. They can see that.
Exactly. There's no civil war. I mean, people believe that. I mean, they're dreaming. And I mean, the thing is, the Syrian army, I mean, they have over 600,000 people in the army, and they can still enlist more people that are on reserve. I mean, they've got a corps that is, I believe, 150,000 men, like Republican Army. Wow. That, I mean, this isn't small. And if you think the Russians are in there operating this stuff. Now, what's going to happen when they start killing Russians in there?
Well, that's it, because Putin's got his people operating the S-400s and 300s, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, if he starts taking casualties,
well, that's it. This is going to not be good. But I mean, so I mean, you've got all this, you know, sort of like you know, set up, and you know, I mean, the other thing is, it's like, let's say they decide to go in there, maybe this week, maybe whenever, but I mean, it's not going to be a piece of cake, and you know, the Americans have never faced Russia and China in this real,
in a direct manner.
Yeah, in a direct. We're talking like technology against technology, and if America's going to go in there in NATO and think they're not going to get a bloody nose, I mean, they're dreaming. And I mean, the thing is what's going to be interesting is if they lose maybe 1 or 2 or 3 aircraft carriers. You know, maybe people like Egypt and maybe, you know, Turkey and that are going, ooh, maybe we better get to the other side.
Just one. The symbology of seeing one U.S. aircraft carrier. Yeah. Obviously, this just underlines this fact. You know, we're not for anyone dying. We're not for anyone like any sort of, you know, of any sort of violence on other forces. But if this was to happen, the issue being forced by the U.S., and they lose one of their legendary, one of their powerful aircraft carriers, the image of that across the world, seeing that in flames.
It'd be like the Bismarck with the Germans, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be powerful. And you know, within a day, that's going to be all over the internet. That's going to be in videos everywhere. And that's going to have this image of the US. It's going to be like that kind of the Twin Towers type of imagery.
All over. Well, I don't think they'll be showing that on CNN too much, or to use that as propaganda to sort of like drop tons of nuclear bombs.
I think they'll go one of two ways, if and when that happens, is that if it gets out, which I'm pretty sure it will. The things that happen, they try and contain it now, and they're just too slow. Alternative media is so widespread now. People on the ground, people on the coast, this stuff will spread like wildfire. It'll be all over the net, and then they'll have to release stuff like in the CNN and address these conspiracy theories. And then from that, you know, it will get to the public eye, and then maybe that will then cause their plans, and we must defeat them. We must go in with more forces.
Well, that's got a bigger hammer.
Exactly, and unfortunately, that's kind of what they've done in Afghanistan, isn't it? You know, it's like the poor people of America. You know, not all of you, obviously, but some of you kind of believe that and go, yeah, you know, go USA.
Go get the flags at the FEMA camps.
Yeah, wave your flag at the FEMA camp, you know. Back to your beds.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, lights out. I mean, the thing is here is like, people have this perception that the U.S. are going to walk in here and this thing's going to be mopped up in a week. I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, you take a look at Afghanistan, Iraq, these things have gone for 10 years, and guess what? The Americans have still not won that war, controlled that war.
You can't do it. No one wants you there. Get out. You stop just protecting your drugs. You know, it's like you can't win it. You've got a whole country. You can't. You're just sending more young men to die slowly.
Well, that's what's going to happen. I mean, this Syria thing might turn into a world war where this thing's going to last 3, 4, 5 years. And, you know, I mean, that's going to affect economies. That's going to, the oil prices, I mean, people should go and whatever container they get that can hold gas, you better buy lots of it, because, I mean, I'm glad. I moped and I got an MRT system, trains and public transportation, but I'll tell you something. This is going to skyrocket oil prices to $150, $200 a barrel minimum. And then people will wake up.
Yeah, you don't want a big car when this happens. Jesus. It's going to have a big effect. Yeah, that's it. Like you say, from the gas prices, you know, transportation of products,
economies, food, employment. I mean, every place is going to get hit. Every country's shores or borders, there's going to be some knock-on effect. Like I said, it's not bombings, you know, Afghanistan. I mean, this is totally a different can of worms here.
Yeah, exactly. This is a well-organized country, you know, with, you know, and the sad thing is, you know, it's like, it's been kept stable by his family, and though, you know, regardless whether you like his policies or not, you know, it's like with Putin, regardless of whether you like his domestic policies or whatever, unless you live there, it's none of your business, you know. It's like he doesn't go starting wars with his neighbours, he doesn't start telling Europe how they should be doing things, he doesn't start cruise missile into Italy or Spain or France, you know. It's like, keep your nose out, unless you want to get bitten off. So, yeah, again, you know, put aside all the petty, you know, but he's doing this, but he's doing that. Look in your own country.
Exactly. But just look at the big picture, look at the history, see what's going on. And I mean, anybody that's, you know, still half asleep, like I said, when oil prices hit 150 or more, I mean, everyone's going to be affected. That's us too. I mean,
yeah, we're all affected. But the sad thing is, it's got so far now that they'll probably put on CNN, gas prices have gone up because of a cent.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the U.S. like around the world reaction. Like, I mean, if you're talking a little bit about.
Let's save that part 3. So we're going to talk about in part 3 the U.S. worldwide.
U.S. Yeah, worldwide reaction.
All
Good
right.
call. All right.